Hey, welcome to the Wayfarer Podcast. I am Zach Elliott, and I am hosting solo tonight. No Jonathan, no Jared, no Katya. I do have Riley, but he's just producing. So you just get me as we close out season 2 of the Wayfarer Podcast. And I wanted to do it this way so that we could just have kind of a one-on-one conversation with everybody who's been listening or people who may be new to the Wayfarer Podcast and you just stumbled upon this and you're thinking, what is this podcast all about? We set out 2 seasons ago with the help of 100 Shares. Huge thank you to the 100 Shares Committee here in Tampa Bay. We wanted to extend a fresh invitation to follow Jesus and the wayfaring life, the way of imagining the Christian life as a pilgrimage, as a journey that takes really the whole course of our life, is the invitation that Jesus was making back when he called his first disciples. And what's really exciting in our landscape is so many more people are hungering and thirsting for the real thing. People are just unsatisfied with abstractions or disembodied, fragmented ideas. People want an integral way of being that is new. And that's the invitation Jesus made. He said, come follow me. And he said to people, if you are hungry, if you are thirsty, come to me, and there you will discover life and life to the full. And that's the invitation we were making. So season 1, we wanted to have a conversation on what does that look like? And what is it to take Jesus up on that invitation? And how does reimagining the Christian life as a journey maybe change some of the ways that we've thought about faith? So that's season 1. Season 2, we really tackled the challenges that come up when you start approaching your faith as a journey, and the reality that there's certain things that are going to be with us over the course of that journey. Things like temptation, things like fear, things like malaise or doubt. These are common to our experience as humans, even living a life of faith. And it was so healthy and so fun to have a good conversation to kind of normalize the reality that a Christian life isn't a perfect life. A Christian life isn't a doubt-free life. It's not a life free of temptation. It's not a life free of struggle or even setbacks or opportunities to drop the ball or to even go a couple steps back. That's the normal experience of the Christian faith. And it was so good and so healthy to have a conversation, not just as a cast, but in the live events, saying, how do we keep moving forward in our life of faith, being honest about the fact that we're going to continue to face temptation. We're going to continue to have to wrestle through things like acedia and malaise. We're going to have to continue to confront lust and fear and doubt, and that there's a way of doing that, not alone, but with Jesus and in life together, that allows us to keep moving forward and also not somehow feel like we have failed if we're continuing to experience those things along the way. So that's season 2. What are the challenges to the wayfaring journey? Season 1, what is that wayfaring adventure? We have reached the end of those 2 seasons. And so the question is, what's next? What's coming up next? And I want to extend an invitation to everybody listening to the Wayfarer Podcast to lean in a couple directions. And the first one is, I want to encourage you to join a local church. If you are anywhere in the orbit of these conversations, if you listened in season 1, listened in season 2, or if you just listened to this wrap up, and I want to encourage you to consider joining a local church. Maybe you haven't been a part of a church for a long time. Maybe that idea just terrifies you and you go, man, the last place that I thought you would ever ask me to go is to a local church. Or maybe you already have a local church, but you are finding yourself a little bit bored and a little bit leaning out. No matter where you find yourself, that's the first encouragement I want to make. There is not going to be a perfect church. But living out our faith together, not alone, is so deeply important. And one of the things that's been lost in this modern moment is the reality that we get to practice our faith in community. And here, I want to go right at this because you have probably heard, I'm spiritual but not religious, 1,000 times, or, hey, I'll take God, but I want nothing to do with the church, or whatever version of that. All of us have said it, probably all of us have felt that way in some way, shape, or form. And we just haven't understood maybe what the idea of practicing my faith, or even the scariest word, practicing my religion, means. But religion is just religare. It's to bind yourself to what is real. And so what we are invited to in this wayfaring journey is not a solo, individual, autonomous experience. It's walking together with Jesus, with a community of people in the same direction, so that as we encounter those struggles, doubt, fear, lust, temptation, whatever, acedia, malaise, along the way, as we confront those things, we confront them with other people who are also confronting those things. And we get to look to the left and look to the right and see other people who are in that same position. And we get to support and encourage them as we continue to fix our eyes on Jesus and walk forward toward him in faith. The gift of being a part of the local church is that we are very much not alone. And that's not just a concept in our heads. Probably you have felt like this, where we can say cliche things like that and say, well, you're not alone. And you go, well, it sure feels like it. And here's what I would say. All too often, we have not built the ark before it rains. And this is the principle that I want to give you. If there are going to be times where you are in need of people to hold up your arms in prayer, there are going to be times where you are going through even a crisis of faith or a personal challenge. And the time to lean in and build the relationships that are going to surround you in those moments is right now. And so I want to invite you to join a local church, to take the risk to fill the church again. And so here's what I'm imagining. We always think, well, if the church could just get its act together and fix all the stuff that plagues the church, right? And all the foibles and mistakes and all the funkiness of the local church, if they could just work that out, then we would all come back to church, right? I want to flip that on its head and say, what if we all showed back up to church and participated in bringing out the best of who the church is supposed to be? If you go back and you imagine the church as it emerged and it was white hot in its fire for Christ, and they had just experienced the love of God poured out to the very end on the cross, and they had come together been empowered by the power of the Holy Spirit and made one. And then they met together daily, sharing everything they had, breaking bread, listening to the apostles' teaching, the breaking of bread prayer. That was their common normal life. If you could go back and be a part of that movement as it developed and as actually a tradition built up of worship that became really, really rich and churches began to be expressed all over the world, right? We would celebrate that and say that was a beautiful expression of the potency, the life and beauty of the gospel. Well, now in 2025, it's things like that we can easily set aside and say there's got to be something else. There's got to be some other way that faith expresses itself. I want to flip that on its head and say, no. That was an essential ingredient to what it is to be God's people in the world, is that we don't forsake meeting together and that we get to do life together. We don't do it alone. We get to practice our faith as a body. So here's the invitation, maybe even the challenge. Number one, join a local church. Go find one, and you're going to find an imperfect one. And I want to encourage you, go in and ask fresh questions about who is the church? What are the most essential things about being the church? Why is it so important for a church to have a sacramental life? What does it mean to be a church that holds fast to the Word of God? How do we as a church embody our faith so that they will know that we are disciples by the way we love one another? That's the stuff that we want to have conversations about within the church. But I will tell you what, as a pastor and as a friend to a lot of other pastors, it's pretty amazing when people show up and say, you know what, the local church is deeply important. And it's so important that I am showing up and I want to be a part of this. And I want to ask the right questions and I want to lean in and grow through even the friction that I feel in myself to see to it that our church has our city has flourishing churches all over it. We say all the time, it's only true if it's true. Well, that's only true if you and I and all of us show back up. And as wayfarers along the way, we are doing that life together. So that's number one. find a local church. If you are struggling to find a local church, or you're saying, hey, Zach, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know how to find a faithful church that's following Jesus. I'm with you. Those are big questions. Email me, zach@vuvivo.com, and somebody on our team is going to help you, and we'll find a good local church. Doesn't matter what part of the world you live in. I promise you, there is a local church you can connect with, and we can help you work that out. But if you could ask me when we started out season 1 of the Wayfarer podcast, hey, what's something that you hope comes on the backside? One of the things I would have said at the top of the list is, I hope young people get re-energized to say, you know what? Practicing my faith matters. And it's meaningful to have a practice of faith with other people, and that I'm not alone on that journey. And you know what? Just like my Christian walk isn't going to look perfectly, neither is the local church, but that's part of it. And so number 1, find a church. Number 2, I want you to stay connected to V3. We're going to keep having these ongoing conversations. This is just a part of the longer ongoing conversation that V3's been having to express the life and beauty of the gospel in the world. And so for 2 seasons, we took this conversation of the Wayfaring podcast to say, what if we imagine the Christian life as a journey? And you can almost think of the Wayfarer podcast as like a painting that we constructed. There was 2 big canvases, season 1, season 2, and we told the story of the Christian faith. So you go, okay, so what's next? Well, I want to invite you to go and to follow Lab the podcast, where we've had, I don't even know what the number is now, but we're well north of 200 episodes of having conversations with people whose lives and work give us a glimpse of the life and beauty of the gospel. They're people who are on this journey, and we're going to keep these conversations going in that format. And I want to invite you to follow those. Some of those conversations are like 50 minutes long or longer. But I will tell you what, over the long course of listening to all of these other people who are living their faith, I've grown a tremendous amount in just being a part of the Lab the podcast. And so if you've been enjoying Wayfarer podcast, jump over and follow Lab the podcast. Also, follow V3 on Instagram. Riley's going to put all the links in so that you can stay connected to the V3 community. But again, the Wayfarer podcast is a part of V3's ministry. And here's what we're trying to do. We want to wondrously reveal Christianity and invite people to know God personally. And so we're doing that through art. We're doing that through music, literature, content, immersive experiences. There's so many ways that V3 is doing that. You experienced the Wayfarer podcast, which was one expression of us reaching out through content to have these conversations. But there is so much more at V3. So go follow V3 and become a part of V3's community. Come to our events. I would love for you to stay in touch. We're going to host a book event coming up in the fall. It's probably going to be the next best in-person event for, if you're 18 to 30, you shouldn't miss it. And certainly if you're in Tampa Bay, there's no other place that you should be than at that book event. It's coming up just after everybody kind of makes their way through summer. So pay attention for invitations like that. We have art unveilings coming up. We have an On Beauty experience that's going to be particularly curated for 18 to 30-year-olds. So follow V3 and stay connected in that way. The final thing that I want to extend to you is just a tremendous thank you for listening and being a part of the Wayfaring journey. And I want you to know what we said. We would close out all the episodes saying, you're not alone, and we're going to continue walking on. And so that's true. If you've been listening to the Wayfarer podcast, I want you to know that you are a part of our V3 community, and we want to keep walking beside you. And so if there has been a question that has come up, if there's been a particular struggle that you are facing that you cannot find your way through, if there's been a particular fear or doubt or hope and you just want to share it with somebody, we created this platform in order to build a bridge and in order to help you find a base, a community that you could nest yourself within. And so I hope that season 1 and season 2 accomplish that. It's been so much fun. Riley has been a blast to work with, Katia, Jared, Jonathan, and you can hear their personal stories on Lab the podcast. We've done an episode with each one of our cast members so that you can go and actually get to know a little bit of them, their story personally, and hear what's next for each of them. So make sure you go to Lab the podcast, check those out, follow V3, find find a local church, and please reach out if there's anything that we can do to keep walking beside you, because we want you to keep walking on and certainly not alone. So here's to what we can't yet see. Thank you for joining season 1, season 2 of Wayfarer Podcast, and I can't wait to see what God's going to do in the future. Stay tuned at V3 to hear all about what's next. Never alone. Walking on.